Eric Bachrock, Lead Solution Principal Category Management, and Steve Boone, VP Field Presales Space and Assortment, both with RELEX, are going to take us on a journey with RELEX to see how a fully unified retail forward solution delivers results. Welcome, guys.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Sarah. And first of all, welcome to everybody that's listening in today. So what we're going to be looking at today is, I guess it's a very simple and a very efficient agenda that we only have a short amount of time. But first of all, we're going to work through a small introduction again of who RELEX is and kind of what we mean by the term unified. We're then going to start to look at some of the key retail challenges. So the main focus of this presentation today is going to be on category management. So we're going to be talking planograms, we're going to be talking floor planning, but we really want to try and give you an understanding on what some of the hidden opportunities are when you start to bring together different business elements such as space and supply chain. So we're going to talk about some of the challenges, some of the opportunities. Eric's going to walk through how we can start to make this happen in a real life situation. And then at the end, we've got a small video so that you can see where the direction that we've moved in from a floor planning perspective to complete the journey. So first of all, when you think about RELEX as a business, we always like to use the word unified. Now, when we talk about unified, it doesn't mean integration of solutions. It means how we start to bring together the various different business areas so that we can drive additional business benefit. So what you can see in the diagram in front of you here is we're working through those three different business areas of merchandising, supply chain, and operations. They're the areas that RELEX operates in. Now, within each of those different business areas, what you can see is the small icons, which are the different solutions and the different modules that we start to offer. So the focus of today that we'll be talking about is going to be planogramming, it's going to be floor planning, it's going to be assortments. But then in supply chain, we've obviously got forecasting and replenishment. Operation is when we start to create those recommendations from a merchandising or a supply chain point of view. How do we then execute that in store? And then how do we then start to optimize the workforce to make that an efficient process? Now, the main reason that I start to bring up this diagram is really that central point of demand planning. So whenever we're working with any of the RELEX solutions, we start to drive these different solutions based on that same demand forecast. So when we're working from a supply chain perspective, we're obviously creating the forecasted demand, we're creating the projections of what products need to be delivered to the store. We utilize that same forecast so that we can start to drive planograms so that we can get additional business benefits when we're not only creating those, but also implementing in store. And then finally, as we start to move to that bottom section, I think that we've got the technology platform in there as well. It's obviously a single platform, so we do one integration. We have a single integration that then starts to feed all of the various solutions with the same forecast so that we can start to maximize benefit across the business. So moving a little bit more into the subject area, and I always like to talk about this not necessarily as the problem, but more of the opportunity of what exists for retailers today. So typically, I've spent the last 20 plus years speaking with retailers and how they operate in the different areas. And the general consensus with retailers is we have the various different departments within the retailer, such as supply chain, such as space, that they do have good communication between them, but quite often they're working in more of a silo effect. And there's a disconnect between what we're doing from a space planning point of view and also what we're doing from a supply chain point of view. Now, what that effectively means is that if we're working through a planogram process, we start to build planograms, whether it be cluster or store-specific planograms. That's generally based on historical sales information. So we produce the planograms, we issue that information in store, and that's ready to be implemented. Now, then from a supply chain perspective, generally we're working based on a forecast demand. So they're taking into account lots of different things, projecting what stock is actually going to sell at the store, and then that gets delivered to the store. Now, because we're working in, I guess, two different things. So maybe one set of data is based on forecast data, another is based on historical data. What tends to happen is when the store's actually receiving the goods, they're looking at the planogram, it doesn't entirely match up. So we'll start to place products onto the shelf, but the reality is some of that stock will then go to the back room because the space on the planogram isn't necessarily in line with the goods that get delivered to the store. Now, the impact of that, and what often the hidden impact is when it comes to the actual workforce on the shop floor. So if these things aren't completely lined up, then what happens is you get staff that are filling the shelf in the first place, they're taking stock to the back room because it doesn't fit on the shelf. And then when there's a gap on the shelf, they're bringing the stock back from the back room and then placing it onto the shelf. So you're having excess workload when it can be unnecessary. So this brings into how can RELEX actually help and what we actually do and what we mean by unified. So when we talk about the unification, and again, I'm going to focus on space planning and supply chain, it's about how we start to bring all of this information together to gain that additional business benefit. And if we start in the top right-hand corner, we've got supply chain. The first thing that we can start to do is to make supply chain completely space aware. So we have planograms. That means that we understand the space on the shelf for each individual category. We understand the capacity and we understand the products that are going to be on the shelf. Now, by having that information, we can feed that directly into supply chain so that when supply chain is actually generating its forecast and the projections of the products that need to go to the store, what arrives at the store, we already know will fit on the shelf and in the space available for that category. Now, the second thing that we have is if we start to drive space planning, planograms, assortments based on that forecast demand, it means that we're using the same metrics and the same forecast as what we're using from a supply chain point of view. So the products that are actually getting placed onto the shelf are directly in line with the products that are getting delivered to the store. So what that then means is that the delivery truck turns up to the store. Those products then get placed directly onto the shelf and nothing is really going into the back room. So you get a very efficient workforce from the people that are actually placing the products onto the shelf. They're spending more time with the customer and less time doing those needless tasks of kind of running to the back room and replenishing the shelf. And at the same time, because we're bringing those areas together, we can start to make sure that when we're looking from maybe a distribution center point of view, the picking process is a lot more efficient because it's going to be in line with how the stores are actually selling the products. Now, the final thing that I wanted to take you through just before I hand over to Eric is just to try and put that into a real life example or a real world example. And I'm going to try and do this in a day of the life of an individual product. So let's say that a retailer is currently working, generating generic cluster level planograms and supply chain and space are not in synchronization. What you will start to see on this diagram is we've got three key pieces of information. So this is an individual product for an individual store. And we have the green line on there, which has got your triangles. This is the inventory that exists within the store. Then you have the red line, which is going across. That's the space that exists on the shelf for that particular product. And then you have the blue bars that are going up. This is the stock that's getting delivered on a regular basis. Now, what you can see on this first diagram is we've got the shelf space, and each time we're getting a delivery going to the store, you can see that we're having too much of that individual item. We've got too much of it, so it doesn't all fit on the shelf. So we're gaining lots of overcapacities. This results in the shelf filler going to the back room, placing items in the back room, and then bringing it out when we have a gap on the shelf. So then we have the opportunity to move to more of that store-specific planogram, which is a really smart thing for a retailer to do, because then you can start to maximize the availability, reduce out of stocks within the store. But what you can see here is that with the maximum shelf space for the products, that has now been optimized on a store-specific basis so that we have the correct amount of space allocated to the products on the shelf. But what you will see on I guess on the green diagram, we're making sure now we're not having those overfits of the shelf, we're not having items going to the back room, but you can see that we're probably delivering that item too frequently to that particular store. So we're still having deliveries on Monday, Thursday, but we're not actually reaching the shelf capacity. So we're delivering that product too often. So the final piece here is when we talk around unified. So we have the ability to not only optimize the planogram information at a store specific level, but then we can also optimize things from a supply chain point of view because it understands the space in the store. And this is where you can see now that we've actually reduced the amount of deliveries for that product going to the store, but we're still staying within the constraints of the shelf. So you can see we've halved the amount of deliveries, which is also going to start to reduce the overall costs. So just to summarize, I think that with retailers, if we start to talk about unifying space and supply chain, the two areas where we've got that hidden opportunity, if you like, are very much in operational costs when you see the staff in the shop floor and also the staff from a distribution perspective. So Eric, just handing over to you and take it from here.
Thank you, Steve. That was fantastic, and thank you to everybody attending RELEX Live today. Really appreciate it, and I especially hope you had the opportunity to take a look at Josh Mann's presentation. He talked about the great value of AI and how RELEX uses it across our entire solution suite, from everything from supply chain to category management. So what I wanted to take you through is this first slide, and really talking about what is consumer-centric space planning and automation. And we'd like you to experience the difference and obviously receive that value that comes from that pragmatic AI approach. RELEX Solutions, from a supply chain to category management product, we develop and with a configure don't code approach. And this means that all end user capabilities are fully configurable by the user and don't require any external development, consulting fees, or developer code knowledge to implement. Our micro and macro space solutions include every functionality capability you would expect from a state-of-the-art space management solution and more, including, of course, your interactive highlighting capabilities, configurable labels, and multiple workbench views. The space planning, automation, floor planning, and database modules have a very common look and feel to it that most seasoned and even newer users will recognize and feel comfortable with. And as described earlier with Steve, all the data points can be connected to provide that unified holistic environment. We also have that capability of creating advanced fixtures, as well as the fixtures that come vanilla with the solution. And there are more fixtures available that you're not commonly used to seeing, like pallets and slot wall, etc. There's a it's an extremely flexible fixture capability, including the ability to build those custom fixtures, such as inline racks, multi-tier displays, merchandising collateral, lock boxes, etc. And all of these objects can be stored in a library and shared throughout your network. We also have something called work packages. And work packages are an automation capability. It runs all of your automation and optimization tasks without requiring any sort of developer coding skills. And work packages can also be saved to a bank or repository for future tasks or sharing with other folks within your network. There we go. One of the advantages of our automation capabilities is speed to shelf when it comes to new item cut-in automation. The idea is to really reduce the amount of time that it takes to make that cut-in or that minor revision to hundreds or thousands of planograms, and also capture that work that's going to be required at the store level to decide, is this a revision, or is this a major blitz, or is this a major reset? Functionality includes planogram comparison, the ability to take a CDT, import that CDT, and apply it to your merchandising strategy within the solution. We have live validation capabilities and configurable validation templates, which means you have a template that you can base all of your business requirements and your merchandising requirements. And my camera just went off. and your merchandising requirements.
It's okay, Eric. We still hear you when you're talking.
Okay, all right, but the slide's not advancing. There we go. Okay, so with the no need to sacrifice functionality for sustainability or value. A lot of the times we find in solutions where we'll get great functionality, but the product is not sustainable, or there'll be fantastic value, yet the functionality is really not there for what we need. So the products were all developed by retail engineers, but it's implemented by industry experts. So when you can feel secure that you're not just getting a fantastic solution, but you're also getting the industry expertise of category management experts that understand what your deliverables are. And when I say quick ROI benefit to realization, commonly known as return on inventory investment. In this case, I'm using this acronym as return on implementation investment because of the short time it is to realize the benefits that come from the solution. One of the fantastic things, what we do here at RELEX is we can capture every element of that planogram, real 3D visualization, fixture, product, merchandising, collateral, and every element and every data point. So we've got looks and substance. So with RELEX, you don't only have great looking planograms that truly represent your merchandising displays and assortment, but a chock full of data that can be leveraged to make smarter, more efficient merchandising decisions. You capture every element and every data point and immediately generate a bill of materials that provides store operations with every element required for that store, from steel to security devices. What I'd like to do here is kind of take you through the planogram generation process. Now, planogram generation capabilities have been well adopted in our industry, but there are still many obstacles that we're all challenged with, especially from a retailer standpoint, from leading software providers. Some of those challenges are internal alignment, usability, and skill requirements. Sometimes outsourcing work to consulting groups. And then there's that time to value. I'm now going to give you the 30,000 foot view of the planogram optimization process in RELEX. And of course, there are some fine details that go along with the optimization process, but I can provide you with the 1, 2, 3 approach. And of course, afterwards, I would love the opportunity to discuss with you in greater detail after the show. So what you're looking at on this slide is the best planogram. So what happens first is a template, a gold standard planogram is created with the ideal capacity, ideal core, assortment, and the visual merchandising vision. In addition to that is what we call a sequence template. And that sequence template simply provides the sequence of products. And if you look at the image on the right displays all of those, the same blocking strategy I have on the left, except this is the product that I always want to remain in this order. A good thought process is for we're thinking about a hair dye where we have numbers. There are sequences that they should always go in. Once these planograms are created, they're very rarely touched and never have to be touched again. The second part of this is that defining that blocking strategy. And I didn't hit next on that thing. I apologize, there seems to be a latency here. There we go. Okay, so what you're looking at now is the blocking strategy. And this gives you the flexibility to move these blocks around. I can define what type of space I want for each of these sections on the planogram. For each bay, I can cross over bays. And so this defines and gives us the ability to modify these blocking groups, define the flexibility conditions, see all of the products within those blocks, and apply filters to locate objects. There is no tagging and no complex definitions required to operate. We operate in full view. So as you're working, your desktop, you can see all of the toolbars and everything and properties that are available to you as you're working. The third step of this optimization process is to create what we call a work package. And this is where we define the category tactics. It's a very Visio-like workflow. It's configurable, and it doesn't require any special planogramming skill sets to implement. You easily configure actions using very common language and that support that category directive. It's a very clear and concise process flow. And we have the ability to, as well, weigh our metrics using that bar that you see on the right where it says performance weighting ratio. If I have a category that's more assortment driven or more performance driven, I can weigh that. You can name and save these work packages in the work package repository and share them with other users or apply them to other categories as you move on. Again, like I said, there's no development coder requirements. And it's a simple and advanced mode development option, so we can get very, very detailed. All of those nodes can be moved around. And like I said, there is no complex motion around that. And so the end result is you've gone from your template planogram and your assigned stores to the optimized planograms. And in this screen, what you're seeing, we have the generated planograms. On the top group, you have the work package name. All of that data that you're looking at can be grouped together and dragged into simple view. And you also have the ability to quickly look at those validation indicators, which are applied against the validations that we put into place upon implementation. So we can look and see, did this hit all of my criteria? And we can clearly see in that list where it passed and where it failed. And of course, you have that collapsible preview. So I have a highlighted planogram over there, and immediately in the preview window, I can see that planogram and all of the attributes associated with it. The Power BI reporting, one of my favorite aspects is that, integrated with Microsoft BI, it provides you with very powerful insights to your data, allowing you to make better, faster strategic decisions. And because Power BI is such a widely used BI tool, it's familiar with most users, and the learning curve and configuration is very minimal. It's scalable and secure, and probably the most popular way to use business intelligence data, insights, and solutions. And finally, we have RELEX on the go. RELEX on the go is our communication tool. This allows you to communicate your corporate vision, your planograms, your floor plans out to the stores and field ops. It's totally adaptable and configurable. Thank you, Steve. I appreciate that. And it will provide all of the planograms, the key metrics that are shared, instant planogram and floor plan delivery, view planogram changes, the adds and deletes. Both the store and corporate have the ability to upload and share any type of merchandising documentation that may go along with that, images and more. And if there are challenges at the store, they can communicate that back. Performance highlights and allocations as well. With that, we're going to show you a brief video of our floor planning. You can kick it away.
RELEX Floor Planning is a cloud-based solution designed to efficiently manage the development and execution of merchandising initiatives. The solution offers a seamless flow of store-specific merchandising information and accurate analysis of fixture data, allocated space, and category adjacencies. In this demo, we will show how floor planners use RELEX to improve shoppability through consistent, logical space arrangement and increase category sales through optimizing existing space and adjacencies. In the floor planning application, we'll begin in the floor planning repository, which is built on the relevant store hierarchy. By selecting a store, you can access various floor plan versions, including working versions, proposed versions submitted for approval, live floor plans, and archived versions that have been replaced. To open a floor plan within the store, click the eye icon. Next, import the CAD file in DWG format to create a new floor plan. The imported CAD drawing is the starting point for building the floor plan. Define which layers of the floor plan are needed for optimization and show or hide them accordingly. On the left, the different shelf types are available sorted by group. New shelf types can be created if needed. To place a shelf in the floor plan, select the start and end point of the shelf. The segmentation is done automatically based on the CAD drawing or the shelf settings. Fixtures can be copied, pasted, and repositioned in the floor plan as needed. Once the shelves are in position, categories can be added to the floor plan by dragging and dropping them from the Planogram library. The Planogram library is housed in the RELEX microspace solution, which is integrated to RELEX floor planning via a common database. Departments can be added to the floor plan via a snap function. When drawing the departmental lines, marks in the CAD file act as a guide to ensure that all boundaries are straight and accurate. Since the floor planning and microspace solutions use a common database, all planograms added from the Planogram library are automatically linked. To drill into a specific planogram, select it and click on the Planogram link button on the top and the I button in the pop-up window. Different planogram views are available, and labels or live product images can be toggled on and off. 3D views are also available for a more realistic visualization of the selected planogram. Clicking the information icon provides additional planogram and product details. On the left, the product library displays all products, both placed and non-placed. The highlight function provides an understanding of the planogram's blocking rules and product placement. Performance and productivity information is also available via the highlight function. Floor planning allows you to use tables on the fixture, category, bay, department, and aisle levels. All reports are available for export to Excel or CSV format. Aisles can be created in the application to gain a better understanding of customer flow and assessment of categories placed on the aisle. Begin by drawing the customer flow, then assign the relevant planograms, and the solution creates the aisle. Aisle descriptions can be added and the category flow is visible. To move a category, simply select it, click the Move button, and select the shelf for the category's reassignment. Bay numbering is very flexible in the RELEX floor planning solution. Simply enter the prefix, the start number, draw the direction, and the shelves are numbered. Highlights are often used for evaluating a floor plan and will quickly show floor plan performance or the distribution of individual categories in the floor plan. Selecting the time period, value to be measured, and the data aggregation highlights the floor plan accordingly and provides an easy understanding of individual category performance based on the selected measures. Downloadable reports are also available. The integrated export function ensures that edited floor plans can be exported in DWG format with all layers. This saves a huge amount of time in the construction department, as all information from floor planning can be directly imported and used for the next steps in remodeling or adjusting the store. That concludes our demonstration of RELEX floor planning. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching.
Thanks so much for sharing that, Eric and Steve. I always love to see a good video that actually, shows us what we have to look forward to, and having those deeper insights can definitely be a game changer. So we have time for one audience question. And so I want to throw this out to one of you. I'm not sure who would want to answer this, but how do we anticipate future changes to categories and products to take a proactive approach versus the reactive approach of using historical data to create planograms?
Absolutely. The whole benefit of what RELEX does is that the ability to build consumer-centric planograms based on that forecasted data and based on an understanding of our shipments and deliveries. So we can create those, automate those specific planograms for those stores based on that data. I totally agree with you 100%. designing planograms based on historical data is simply repeating the past.
Absolutely. And it's always all about being proactive now rather than reactive. So really, really good question. Thank you so much for that. And thanks again to you both. We are back in 5 for a food fight. I mean, figuratively speaking. Next up, Johanna Smaros, RELEX co-founder, and I will sit down to chat about her extensive guide on best practices for managing grocery supply chain. Stay tuned.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.